Fair Park homeowners sent a group of people to meet with me one night in my hotel room. And they told me about the city was taking their homes. And I listened, and I explained to them, well, you know, I'm here for one reason, the premiere showing of this movie. We're deeply committed to this because this is for Dr. King's widow and his children. I can't get involved in anything locally. I've been ordered not to start no stuff down here. I wish I could help you all, but I can't. An elderly man named Mr. Gideon Johnson, who was a World War I veteran, they was taking this old man's house. This old man sat in my room and cried and shook his finger in my face and told me if Martin Luther King was alive, he would help us. And he was absolutely right. There's nowhere in the world Dr. King would have turned his back on those poor homeowners. There's just no way. So I decided that once the movie was over, I'm going to help these people. It also gives me a chance to put my foot in the city's butt. But, you know, so.
And how did they know to come to meet you?
Well, we had getting a lot of publicity. From the day I set foot in this city, the press was at Love Field waiting for me. And then we was involved in a public fight with the city, and I was calling them a bunch of racists to their face, and nobody had never done this before. And all of the colored people were saying, oh God, what's, you know, just, you know, this was a weird place. So
you, by that time, were a figure of some notoriety to the local black community just for doing what you did.
And we had friends here. First, the black man on the city council name was George Allen. He was the only Negro elected politician here. He was Andrew Young's uncle.
I didn't know that. Oh my God.
St. George was kind of, he was the chosen Negro leader by the white power structure. So in their mind, when they figured out that Andy Young was my boss and that George Allen, their boy, was Andrew Young's uncle, well, why not get George to put pressure on Andy to control me and to get me the hell out of Dallas? Well, first place, Andy didn't have that kind of control over me. Andy would get his feelings hurt. That, you know.
Much to his chagrin.
Yeah. Recently, he was here for some event, and a friend of ours was a white man who's an elderly white man, lives here now, who used to work for Lyndon Johnson, worked in the LBJ White House, Bill. So Bill went to see Andy, and Bill was telling Andy, you know, I see Pete almost every day. He tells me he used to fire him 2 or 3 times a year. And he said, no, that's a damn lie. He used to fire him 2 or 3 times a month. Said, didn't do any good. He'd go to Dr. King and cry, or go to Mrs. King and cry. They'd have to hire him back. So once the movie was over and it was a big success, we met our required dollar amount. I was due back in Atlanta. I was supposed to take 2 days off to go visit my parents and be back in Atlanta the 3rd day. But by the 5th day is when Andy started calling, where in the hell are you? Well, I wrote a letter to Mrs. King telling her what I was doing and that I'm staying here. So Andy hung the phone up on me. Later on that day, somebody came and told me, have you been listening to the black radio station? I think it was WXOK. I said, no. So Andrew Young just fired you on radio. That's how I found out I'd been fired. It was on the black radio stations all over America. But I'd already covered myself because I'd sent Mrs. King a long letter and had some of the homeowners to sign the letter and know that, you know, this is something I need to do, and I know that it's going to piss Andy and Dr. Abernathy off, but I'm going to stay here and help these people for a couple of weeks. You know, that's 40 years ago, I think. The Fair Park homeowners was people whose home was in direct proximity of the Cotton Bowl, and they wanted to expand the Cotton Bowl and basically take these people homes for parking spaces for white folks who would come north for the fair and for the Cotton Bowl, and the Cowboys, which was playing at the Cotton Bowl at that time. And of course, I toured those homes and went door to door, knocked on those doors and talked to those families. The city was absolutely right. They were little wood frame, mostly 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom shacks, little wood frame houses. But to these people, they were homes where they had raised their children. Most of these homes had been bought with the GI Bill. These men had been in World War I and World War II. They was up in age now. And they were listening to primarily a bunch of sophisticated white lawyers explaining to them how to raise money to fight this in federal court. We had been involved in these kind of fights in the South, and we knew this thing that's called eminent domain. You don't win. I mean, experience had just taught us that you don't win a fight against eminent domain. I mean, I don't care who you are, how much money who your lawyer is. History had taught us in the South, you're not going to win a fight against eminent domain. You ain't going to win that. So we didn't get involved in that fight. We just thought that was a waste of time and energy. And here again, in terms of the Saul Lenser School of Organizing, you don't make promises to people you can't keep. That is unfair to do this to poor people. You don't tell them things that might happen. That's not going to happen. But we thought that working for Martin King, one of the things that Dr. King taught is to study issues. And he called it, you take a closed reading on this issue. That means you go to Mississippi or wherever it was, and you study this issue and find out what can and cannot be done, how to mobilize the community around this issue, who would just raise all of the questions and see what answers you have and what answers you need. Once we looked at the fair park homeowners, we thought that the greatest issue was not eminent domain, it was fair market value. And this is a fight we can win. You see, this is a fight we can win. Fair market value for the families and relocation money, that's a fight we can win. 4th Avenue, which is one of the streets. Black family lives at, say, 1401 4th Avenue. They got a 3-bedroom house, little bathroom. The house is, the lot is 50 by 100 feet deep, 50 feet wide. The house next door to it, 1403 4th Avenue, same house, same footage. This house that this black family is mine is appraised at 50 cents a square foot. This house that this black family is renting from a family in Highland Park is $2 a square foot. So we got them. See, we're not going to fight you about eminent domain. We're going to fight you on the question of fair market value. And since you set the market based on pigmentation, we think you're right. That house is worth that much, you see. So we chose to fight for the fair park homeowners based on fair market value. And in doing so, we thought there are certain things that the white power structure in Dallas ought to learn. That's to respect people. So this idea that the mayor would not meet with nobody but their chosen Negro leaders, we said, no, we're going to decide who the leaders are he meets with. And we'll decide when that meeting takes place, not the mayor. So we decided that he ought to meet on New Year's Eve night. That ought to be a good time for him to come to a meeting to meet with poor people. And everybody laughed at me when I told them that. But in studying Dallas, we had learned that the Kennedy assassination had made the power structure, the business people, extremely sensitive to their national image. And anybody who could throw mud on that national image, you could make them jump. They're going to say, how high you want me to jump? So I knew that first they could not cancel the Cotton Bowl. It was coming, and I was getting ready for it. And I knew that there's nowhere in the world they could allow me to do this on national television. I mean, once they look at my history, I'm sure people like in the FBI are going to tell them, yeah, he'll do it. You know, they'll know that he's not bluffing you, he'll do this. So we waited until New Year's Eve before we sent the telegrams. But the week before, we had sent mailograms to all of my friends all over America. One of the great things about growing up and working in the civil rights movement during those years is we had developed a tremendous brotherhood around the nation with people from the anti-war movement, people from the social justice movement, people from the women's movement, Gloria Stein and those. So we had this wonderful, wonderful relationship that was national. So I had sent messages called mailograms. We didn't have emails and fancy telephones, to my friends all over the nation saying, come to Dallas and go to jail with me on New Year's. And they put in with their backpacks and their toothbrushes from all over America. You know, my long hair, hippie friends from the mountains in Colorado. I mean, they just put in. So if I wanted to do it, I knew I could do it. Because my friends was here who knew how to do those kinds of things. And they'd come all over from California, from all over America, to spend New Year's here in jail with me. For issues that they really didn't give a damn, it just was a good idea. It's just so they were here. And the city knew they were here. So that night, when we sent to Matt a telegram that evening saying that he had until midnight, December the 31st, to meet with the Fowl Park homeowners' chosen leaders, and we was gonna block the Cotton Bowl parade. Then the other thing, because it was the Cotton Bowl, I had a lot of national news people here that I knew. I knew Sam Donaldson. He was a young man, young reporter who was following us all over Mississippi and Alabama. So there were a number of nationally known news reporters here covering the Cotton Bowl that we knew personally, that I was able to invite over to the church in South Dallas, come hang out with us tonight and see what we're doing. So the nation was seeing what we were doing from the basement of the church. And we knew that was a tremendous amount of pressure on the city government. And eventually the chief of police, whose name was Frank Dyson, came with a squad of tactical squad with their helmets on and their long billy clubs. And, you know, we had a basement full of people, church basement full of people, white, black, Jewish, but mostly my friends from around the nation who you're not gonna scare them. So they came in with their helmets and billy clubs and told us we had 10 minutes to vacate the church because the church was being threatened to be bombed and they had to get us out of the church. So we said, no, let them bomb the church with us in the church. You know, why not bomb them with us in the church? Now, if y'all want to drag us out of the church and beat us before the nation, have fun. But remember Selma. Just if you want to drag us out of this church on New Year's Eve and beat us, drag us out of the church and do it and beat us. But remember the bridge in Selma. So I guess at about 11:45, we got a call at the church office from Mayor Eric Johnson himself, saying that if I would agree not to block the Cotton Bowl parade, he would agree to meet on January the 2nd. So I hung the phone up. He called right back. And he said, what would it take to get you to call this off? I said, you have to meet with the leaders from this community and look them in the face and talk to them like they men and women about taking their damn houses. So he said, well, where you want the meeting to be? I said, Mr. Mayor, you decide where you want to meet. But time is running out. So he decided if they would come to his office, which is in downtown Dallas, at Republic Bank Building, he would be there before midnight. So we called everybody together in the basement of that church and told them that we had just talked to this mayor, and he had agreed to meet. Nobody believed it. Albert Lipscomb fell on his knees and started crying because they had been so disrespected in this community. And they wanted me to be their spokesman. I said, no, anybody taking my house. You know, y'all need to speak for yourselves and look him in the eye and talk to him, I'll go with you, but I'm not going to speak for you. You must speak for yourselves. So we talked on the way down there and got to the building, went up to the 35th floor, and when we got to the hallway, I pulled them to the side and we had a little prayer, and I said, I don't need to go in there with you. you need to go in there by yourselves and stand up straight and talk about what you've told me about your homes. And I told Mr. Jackson, when this meeting is over and he think everything is good, you tell him that I said the Cotton Bowl Parade has been segregated for the last time. There have to be some color in it tomorrow. So that next day, that night about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I called Reverend Abernathy and Andy and told them that we had won and that we had the meeting and we had called a protest off, and Reverend Abernathy said that he had been keeping up with it through the national press, and that he wanted me, he said, as soon as you put the phone down, I want you to get the hell out of Texas. He said, no, we've already made reservations for you. Go to Shreveport, here's the hotel you go. He said, but leave right now. He said, do not tell nobody where you're going. There's a car outside waiting for you. So that next day I was in the hotel in Shreveport, and I was watching the Cotton Bowl Parade winding its way down the streets of Dallas, and Sam Donaldson in the news, people saying, and that's the Cadillac led by the mayor, and that's the mayor, and we don't know who that Negro man is in the car with the mayor.